Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Empowering Equality with the IWSCC, or Inclusive Workplace and Supply Council of Canada. And my name is Deidre Guy, and I am the president. Um, so, if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, we do include ASL interpretation that is sponsored by RBC Royal Bank and supplied by Maple Communications Canada. I want to get right to it. I want to just get to know a little bit more about this person, Cam Wells. So, someone that we met through another person that we've actually done a podcast with as well. And so he recommended that we connect, Cam Wells and IWSCC. And so we've had some great conversations. We wanted to get one of them recorded. So we'll get right to it. Cam, thank you so much for being here.
It's my absolute pleasure. I'm always happy to do whatever I can to support the disability community.
Yes, I'm totally getting that every time we talk, a little bit more, having an understanding of just what level of commitment that you have in the community. But I want to hear more about you. I want to know what you do, of course, but I'd like to hear too, who is Cam Wells? And, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born on the planet Krypton, but my parents knew it was doomed, so I was subsequently sent out. But seriously, I would label myself mostly an advocate. I graduated college 4 times, and first time was really the big one for me. As I was studying journalism, I saw this imbalance in the way disability stories were told. It's either really inspirational or really bitter. I've been doing my radio show, Handi-Link, for 15 years now, and it's been honored both locally and nationally. I've interviewed everyone from former Lieutenant Governor David Onley to one of the guys from Breaking Bad.
Wow.
Everyone's got a unique story to share. But the truth is, the best stuff doesn't come from those who talk in sound bites. It doesn't come from a politician who gives the same speech 5 times a day. It comes from the mom and pop spending all night looking for information to help cure their daughter or to just make the world a little bit better. And I think it's my personal, my honor to share these stories. I mean, I'm not, not the world's greatest authority on anything, mind you, but I am a stroke survivor who's been through a lot. Childhood bullying, being told he'd never finish school, all that sort of stuff. But I'm the guy who hopes that somebody else doesn't have to go through it, hearing that the world is bigger than we think it is.
Wow, that's fantastic. There's so much to unpack there. And I know with the questions that we're going through, our official questions, that we are going to unpack quite a bit of it. I'd like to know, just to start, when you're not advocating and when you're not, on the radio, doing your work, having your conversations with folks surrounding disability and accessibility, what do you like to do just on that time when it's just Cam? What do you like to do? What do you enjoy? Sci-fi clearly is something.
Yes.
So I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek myself, so I'm right there with you.
Good. Well, honestly, my other job, I work in a disability sports office, which I've been tied to for over 15 years. They gave me my first scholarship. I work out, I collect lost rock and roll, I spend time with friends, video games, TV, life. I'm also a Sunday school teacher, and as a shout out to one of my favorite stories, I'm a bit of an amateur comedian, so this is something I probably should share. The daughter of a very, very dear friend of mine, who I teach Sunday school to, walks up to me with a very serious look on her face, and she goes, "Are you serious?" I just look at her, I go, "Very rarely." Cutest little thing. She's like,
That's funny.
But
Did you say lost rock and roll?
Yes, I collect stuff by bands that everyone thinks are a one-shot wonder, but if you dig deep enough, you'll find other stuff.
Yeah.
This group, the Immediate Family, which is studio musicians who work with like James Taylor and Warren Zevon, they sort of split off on their own, and they've done some incredible stuff. And I love knowing the music that is available. I mean, there's actually a song was in a bit of a cult TV show. I spent over 20 years looking for this, and finally I had to contact the guy who originally wrote it, and he didn't remember it. Fortunately, his wife did. My mom
To be
helped me
that
with that one, of
talented.
course, but well, my whole family was committed to finding that song. But yeah, about a year and a half ago, we finally tracked it down. And
Wow. And so
yeah,
how long did you say you've been looking for it? 20 years?
over 20 years.
What was the show?
It was a show called Brimstone. Didn't last very
Oh,
long. It was about a cop who ended up in hell for a mistake he had made and was offered a
okay.
chance at redemption. I sort of I like sci-fi stuff. I like fantasy stuff
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Did you have like a we found the song party after all those years? I would
It,
think.
it was kind of a shock. I mean, you write somebody who has recorded music in Hollywood for TV. You don't expect they're actually going to get back to you. You don't expect that they're going to send you what you're looking for. This guy was real cool about that.
Wow, that's really great. So now, now you're gonna have to find something new to be hunting for that unicorn or
Well,
Nessie, Loch Ness monster of music.
well, I'm always hunting for a decent relationship, but that one is that's my white whale, so to speak.
So you talked about this show that you hosted on CJAM 99.1 Detroit and Windsor. It's called Handi-Link. I'd love to hear more about the show. How did it start? You talked a little bit about what it's usually about, but I'd love to hear more because I know that you've got very cool guests coming up and have had, as you said, some pretty impressive guests in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's my 15th year doing the show. At the time, I was at St. Clair College. I was studying journalism, and the program director then, Cassandra Caverhill was her name, she came in and asked a group of students if they wanted to do a field placement there. Well, I couldn't because I was doing public relations for a disability group that I now work for as well. And after I graduated, I went to her and I said, I want to keep up my skills. I want to do some good in the community. So I pitched a show, and I will marry the woman who can get the reference to where I got the name of it.
Okay.
Actually, it's an homage to an old sci-fi series, Quantum Leap, which they recently brought back. There
I
was a
love that
computer
show.
terminal in it called a Handi-Link, and they asked me for a show title. I only had like 3/8 of a second to think about it, so
That's
yeah,
impressive.
but yeah. I mean, the show it's part of who I am. I always say I've actually designed a disabilities course as well, been presenting intermittently, and one of the slides in it is a saying I use: "Disability is not a hat. It's not something you take off at night, just when you're out of the public eye. It's not something you use to garner sympathy. It's one factor in your life. It's just a different way of thinking if you really look at it. Yeah, you can't do it this way, but can you do it that way, sort of thing."
And so that led you to the show and so tell us, I mean, how often will we find you on that station? Is it a particular time of day? How often
Yeah,
are
I'm
you?
on Thursdays at 12:30 p.m.
Okay.
However, it's not just the show by itself. It's not in a bubble. It's carried by several stations in the
Okay.
National Campus and Community Radio Association, the Disability Channel TV channel, and as a result of it, I've served on a National Radio Accessibility Advisory Committee, and
Mm,
within the NCRA, we authored a book on radio accessibility, not just physical spaces, but things like profiles of people involved and language that should and should not be used. And
mm.
recently, I worked as part of a team making updates to that. It was issued to, I believe, every station in our union. For better or worse, this resource exists and people can learn more about accessibility.
Well, that's great to know. I didn't realize such a thing existed. So we'll have to get further information on that and post it on our YouTube channel and on our website. Um, So tell me about some of the people that you've interviewed as part of the show, and maybe your favorite, and then maybe your least favorite. Those are always good stories.
Well, least favorite's easy. Favorite is a matter of interpretation. My least favorite comes from the very early days of the show, and this is not something I would ever do again, mind you. Was interviewing an ex-pro wrestler who kind of forgot the question mid-sentence. And,
Okay.
well, that was pretty embarrassing for all concerned. And since then, my standard kind of became, if it's better than that, I see what I can do with it. I go with it. Yeah, I mean, one thing that was really, really super cool for me years ago, just after I had the stroke I had as a child, I was doing a lot of rehab. I was in a lot of pain, and I loved the '90s cartoon X-Men. Totally loved that show because it was my island, my half hour out of the week that I wasn't thinking about the pain that I was in. And since I've been doing the show, I actually did some work with Easter Seals, who their head, at least the local head, was bringing two of the voice actors from that show to town. So after 27 years, I was able to meet these two and get autographs, photos done with them, and say, "Your show saved my life." I had a chance to say thanks.
Wow,
It was a big moment for me.
I bet. Was that, and how long ago was that?
It's been about 2 years now.
Okay. Have you maintained a relationship, stayed in touch at all? I guess it might be difficult with folks like
Yeah,
that.
I did leave them with my contact information, but yeah, there were also a couple of cast members of Corner Gas there who were really very nice to me. I hadn't
Oh,
seen their
great.
show at that point, but subsequently I've developed a special fondness for it, and they were just remarkable people. I mean, everybody is affected by disability. You go back in every family, you'll find somebody, whether it was known at the time or not.
Hmm.
And when you look at things like what's coming up, the expanded disability benefits, which hopefully will actually do something to serve their people, you got to remember this is planning for our future. This is recognizing that sooner or later everyone's going to need a little support, everyone's going to need a little help.
Absolutely. And when you look at things for those of us getting a little older and we start to use hearing assistance devices or even just glasses, those are types of disabilities as well. And I think that people don't really look at it that way. They have this concept of what disabled looks like, and that's where it lives for them, and they don't realize that it is a very personal thing and something that should be included in every conversation surrounding humans.
See, that's the big problem right there. People think of disability as one concept. It
Hmm.
isn't. It's about 5 million. I mean, what I did with my course design, first chapter is definitions of disability. I used an iceberg analogy. It's a lot like the substance of the universe I alluded to. It's 10% what we would be able to see and process, and 90% what we could never understand, what's
Hmm.
not known to us. If you look at the statistics, they say 20% of the human race has a disability of some sort. You're not factoring in people whose conditions haven't yet been classified, lack
Hmm.
of access to medical technology, and those who are just so stubborn they would not admit they have a disability no matter what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look at that, the statistic is probably a lot bigger than that. I mean, I'm
And
completely
it's
terrible at math.
me too. It's painful too to think about how someone would rather go through not getting assistance and support than identifying as disabled. I mean, the stigma around those of us with disabilities is so high that people would rather not be seen as disabled, even though they could have access to things that would make their life so much easier. It's frustrating.
It's not something to necessarily have sympathy for. This is a very personal story I'm about to share, and this is
Oh.
something that will always be with me. I was in a relationship once, and without my consent, the woman involved tried to faith heal my disability out of me, leaving me
Mm.
with the impression Nothing says I love you quite like trying to change one of the fundamental pieces of who and what you are. I'm happy in my life. I do
Mm-hmm.
good work. I have a job, actually two. well,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a
Maybe
family who
more.
loves me. I've got friends. I've got a decent quality of life. It is not something to be pitied for. But if
Yeah.
you look at the other side of the spectrum, I I knew someone once who would blame his disability for everything. And I
Mm.
mean everything. He can't get a job. There's nobody more qualified. It must be his disability. He can't get a date. It's not that the personalities clash. It must be his disability. I can't look at the world that way. I
Mm.
can't see it as a limitation. It is an innovation if it is anything. I mean, people
Yes.
look at it as a weakness. They look at it from the first glance of, you can't do this. Maybe I can't do it that way, but who's to say I can't carve my own trail?
Yeah. And there's that innovation that is so beneficial in so many aspects of life, and that just is a daily thing for folks with disabilities. And in fact, that's what we talk about to our purchasing organizations, the benefit of working with disabled entrepreneurs, because they're so used to innovating on a regular basis, so used to barriers. If something happens in business, it's just automatic. It's just learned behavior. We're going to figure out a way around this barrier. We're going to innovate. We're going to do better. And I think I could rant all day on that one. But that really goes a long way towards creating a business and a business psyche that is really beneficial to large corporate supply chains as well as smaller supply chains. So um, I'm loving this conversation. We're nowhere near any of the questions that I
I'm
have on my
sorry
list, but
to
I don't care.
derail you there.
I'm fine with that.
But,
But I did want
yeah.
to, I wanted to talk about, what, like, first of all, you have this career, I guess, in broadcasting, and I want to know what led you. Like, were you already doing work in radio when you pitched the show, or was it a whole new thing to you that you just thought this needs to be done, and I want to get it done? What brought you there?
Originally, I was actually a print journalist. I mean, started back in high school. I did a field placement with the Lakeshore News, and I studied print and new media at St. Clair, as I mentioned. But thing is, I started the show initially just thinking I wanted to keep my skills up, just keep my finger on the pulse of
Mm.
journalism. I didn't realize that I'd be opening up to this whole new world and seeing things from a whole new standpoint. And when you mention the innovation factor, people think a person with a disability can't do this, that, or the other. I've interviewed blind martial artists,
Mm.
blind target shooters, a woman who is both deaf and blind and did the CN Tower Edge walk.
Oh,
And
wow.
these are the things people figure out a way to do.
Yeah.
They do it because they want to do it. But that being said, there's another slide in my course that I developed called "It's Called Breakfast." Person with a disability gets out of bed. They make toast. That is not per se inspirational. That is per se breakfast. It is called eating, and I think a lot of people do it, if I'm not mistaken.
I know we talk about that all the time. Again, with our purchasing organizations that are looking to do things, events and things in support of the disability community, I'm always like, okay, you need to um, get away from that inspiration porn mentality and just talk about humans as humans who happen to be living with a disability. It's and then we have folks with disabilities that have done some really amazing things. Like I look at Mike Shorman and we talk about the work that he's done. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's paddleboarded across all 5 Great Lakes back in 2022 with a recently acquired disability. Well, that's a thing that a lot of non-disabled folks have tried to and are wanting to continue and complete, and it's taken them years and years to do that all in one summer. He has a documentary. I watched it and thought, gosh, we just see him exhausted getting off the water, and now he has 5 days to recover and go do it again, 40 some hours paddleboarding across a lake. So that is inspirational, but you're right, just toast and breakfast is just
I
breakfast.
I hate to bring this up, but this is something I feel very strongly about. It's an ongoing project. I'm a nominee for Canada's Disability Hall of Fame. I haven't
Mm.
gotten it as yet, but I did recently, working with one of the judges, pitch a new category based on advocacy in the disability community. And I personally was shocked that they didn't have that. What's the first thing you think of when you think of disabilities? You think of advocacy. You think of people who are trying to change the world. I sent a somewhat scathing report recognizing some of the political bias in the fact that they had inducted certain people. But yeah, I'm hoping to get this new category actually pushed through. It's up for discussion. It's up for consideration. But if you're going to celebrate disabilities culture, celebrate disabilities culture. You're not there to service anyone's political agenda. You're there to service your people. And I'm sorry to go off on that tirade for you, but that is sort of a mini thing I'm working on, but means
Yeah,
a
that
lot to
sounds,
me.
yeah. I mean, every time we talk, there's another thing that you're doing that I had no idea about, and here's a prime example of it. Can you share a little bit of the work that you do outside the radio show? You said you work as a disability advocate on your
Yeah,
day gig,
I work in a disability sports office for the
right?
Italian Canadian Handi-Capable Association.
Okay,
Basically a sporting organization, but it's one that I feel very strongly about because years ago, at a bad time in my life, they gave me a scholarship actually for my journalism studies, and well, I returned the favor by doing public relations for them. And
okay,
ultimately, I now work in the office and helping out with basically whatever needs helping out with.
right. Wear lots of
It's
hats there.
disabilities is kind of it's integral to my world. I mean, I don't just go home at night and say, yeah, I'm not going to be a disabilities person right now. Somebody comes to me in the middle of the night and they say, I want to talk, I want to share my story. My door's open. But away from my work, I'm just Cam, just a guy loving his family, doing his job, telling a bad joke or two, hoping to find that right girl. But yeah, that's just kind of me. Mm.
Well, maybe our empowering equality will turn into some kind of matchmaking show. You never know. We'll put it out there, and we'll just add that as one of the clips that we post on all of our social media. That you're looking for, hoping to find the right girl. We'll
Yeah,
see what we can do for you. Um, so, when it comes to the work that you do with the radio show, for example, is there work there that is very much different for you than it would be for someone who's isn't living with a disability?
yeah, because you can't really speak to it unless you have a firm foundation. Like I have a colleague who he did a somewhat disability-based show, very different than mine, but he came to me a while back and told me about some of the concerns he had about repeated changes in the format, people wanting to sort of override it with like able-bodied sports coverage and whatnot. So keeping a show with a disability name only didn't strike me as terribly productive. I mean, the fact is, you have to be willing to be your own advocate in the disabilities world. I mean, if you can't speak to these matters from a firm foundation, then really you shouldn't be speaking to them at all, and in my opinion. I mean, recently I was reminded of a story I got laughs over at York University once. I was at a disability summit. And I asked about those blind person crossing signs. Why don't they have Braille on them? Why aren't they at a level people could reach? Are they there just to make us feel better as a society? We can say, we did such a great thing. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he was no great thinker or great advocate, but he did have a saying, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. But, yeah, I mean, when it comes to disabilities, really, it is nothing about us without us. I mean, it is in every factor of life. I mean, you pass down the street, you pass 10 people, one of them has some sort of disability, be it a
At
mental health
least,
concern,
yeah,
depression.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, the work I think is so effective because it comes from a place of real life experience. I recently had occasion to recount one of the reasons that I feel strongly about it. My childhood bully not a nice guy by any stretch of the imagination. Used to try and stick magnets to my leg to see if it was real because I walk with a limp. But the fact is, if I interview educators about disabilities education these days, maybe they see that kid struggling on the playground and maybe they go to his aid and maybe
Mm,
somebody else doesn't go through what I did.
mhm. I love that perspective because they clearly need some support.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they
we
wouldn't
all
be
do.
behaving. Yeah, yeah, we all do. What is your what do you like about sharing other people's stories?
Well, as a journalist, I love a good story. I love covering what nobody else does. I love sharing the story of a blind water ski jump champion who can outjump all his fully sighted companions. But the fact is, there are so many of these stories that just don't get any sort of mainstream coverage.
Mhm.
I love the fact that I am able to bring these amazing people to the forefront, even if it's just for a moment. They get their say. And they
Yeah,
deserve their say.
yeah.
Yeah, big name groups like autism, blindness, deafness, they have a place in the disabilities world too. That doesn't mean that's the entire show.
Hmm. Yes, I like that. It gives them a chance to be heard, and so many of us just want to actually be heard by someone who's actually listening and maybe can even empathize.
Mhm.
Um, what about what would you say makes a good interview? I guess it's just a good story, maybe, but are there things that would be not such a good interview?
Yeah, just my rule always has been I will not put on the air anything that would actively denigrate the disability community. And that has only come up twice. First was that example of Mr. Entitlement that I gave you earlier, blaming his disability
Mm.
for everything that's wrong in the world. The other, a doctor who said any woman not pregnant by 25 should have her eggs frozen. I
Oh
was
gosh.
I was thinking to myself, I cannot and will not put that sort of dampener on anybody out there who's hopeful that they want to have kids, they want to have a
Hmm.
family. I'm not going to put anyone on the air, accurate or not, saying that you have to abide by this rule. Nothing's hard
Hmm.
and fast in the disability world. There's always that unaccountable person who's done what no one said they could do.
Yeah, what hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can tell us about working in radio that sort of most of us would have no idea about?
Yeah, it's my unique and it's my unique opportunity to annoy thousands of people I've never met before. That's well,
So it's fun.
yeah. I mean, on a serious note, though, it's the greatest thing in the world. I mean, you never know who's going to reach out to you in any given week. You never know what the story is going to be. One week it might be wheelchair fencing. The next week it might be a rare genetics group. It's the variety. I mean,
Yeah.
but when it comes to actually being in radio, my best advice, just do what nobody else is doing and make sure that you're connected to the story. They teach you in journalism school to be dispassionate and not to get involved with your subject. I've never agreed with that rule simply
Mm.
because if you don't care, you're simply reciting a set of facts. A tape recorder can do that. Sound like you're reading the phone book, but if you
Yeah.
actually feel something for the people, if you make those connections, like recently, I actually helped out a friend who runs a music studio and was looking for a guitar teacher. Well, I happen to know someone who's quite good with the guitar, a gunshot survivor who actually used music as a form of psychological healing. So I just made an introduction for them, how they're working together.
Wow. That's powerful when
Yeah.
you really think about it. That's very powerful and life changing for so many people. And then you just carry on living your life, finding the next thing like that that you can do. In the meantime, they're doing their own thing, all because you've made that connection. And I think that's I mean, that's a great way to be
Oh,
generally, just in regular life, disabled or not, whatever it is. Do your best to help others.
And
Um,
honestly, sorry to cut you off there, but
that's okay.
it is a matter of caring about people. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fine to just get your story, file it, go on to the next. But if you don't check back in 6 months, you miss all the progress they've made. Say someone has a plan for a new disabilities residence, for example, and they're starting construction. Yeah, it's a great story at the time. They did the groundbreaking. In 6 months, how are people enjoying living there? How many tenants do you have?
Mhm.
What's the affordability of it?
Yeah. Yeah, that actually caring bit makes so much difference. I think all the way around, with everything that you're doing, it allows you to have that actual passion. And if you don't really care about what you're doing, I think you're probably not doing the right thing. You should find something that you really care a lot about. What do
Yeah,
you when it
I
comes to
tried
the
that once, but
disability?
there wasn't any call for a professional comedian at the college one.
Well, that's always an open space. I think there's lots of folks that are stepping into that space on a regular basis. You certainly
For
made me
whatever
laugh
reason.
today. I'm curious to know if you think that there are, and I think you may have answered this to some degree already, but are there topics surrounding the disability community, accessibility community that just aren't being discussed enough, in your opinion?
Absolutely. One thing I've done with my course is I tried to look at the underrepresented aspects of disability life, like philosophical attitudes, relationships of different kinds. I even did an entire chapter on disability portrayals on TV. I look back at some historical examples and some that are modern, and the case of Anson Mount in the new Star Trek, how he's playing the role of someone who was made to be disabled to write him out of the show 60 years earlier, which kind of remarkable. They're still doing it the same way after all these
Yeah,
decades.
yeah. I feel like I want to take your course. Do you think that there are aspects of disability that get too much attention?
In some ways, yes. I mean, if you look at big name events, I mean, yes, it's fine to look at the Paralympics, the Special Olympics. They are valid sporting events, for example, but you should look also at the sports being played every night. Those
Hmm.
teams that are out there just doing their thing. They might not have a lot of commercial sponsors, they might not have all the money in the world. These are still people giving it their heart, giving it their soul. And one thing I did cover a few years ago, actually a lot of years now, but I was nationally honored for this. I did a story on the difference between Paralympic athletes versus their able bodied counterparts, the endorsement deals they got.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's some shocking information in that story.
Oh, and
Well, maybe not so shocking.
you want shocking? Last year, I covered post pandemic follow up about immigrant laborers who had COVID, who were so scared of losing their jobs, they did not report it to their employers,
Mhm.
potentially infecting any number of people. This is from the Toronto Injured Workers group, and well, they gave me this incredible story. Something like that, yeah, would scare the public, but they'd be better
Yeah,
for knowing that.
yeah, yeah. Is there a place where we can find all of these things that you've done? Do you have a website where you've got it posted? Can we find your radio show somewhere online
Yeah,
that we can listen?
yeah, my show's easy to find. If you look up the NCRA Program Exchange and type in Handi-Link, HANDILINK, you can find my most recent 84 episodes. There are archives
Okay.
others, but
Okay.
also if you look up the NCRA Disabilities Handbook, I was one of the principal authors on that. That's the text I mentioned. As for my course, basically, I've been presenting to Canterbury Elder College whenever they need me, and my friend Jeff Thiessen, Parasport Ontario,
Oh,
is
yeah, we
looking
know
at
Jeff.
making
He's
this. He's looking at making it an online teaching tool as well. But if
oh,
anybody wants
fantastic.
a copy at any time, I don't make a secret of any of my work. I mean,
Right.
it's there to make the disability community a little bit brighter, a little bit more informed. I don't do what I do for great profit, though I have gotten a free trip to Winnipeg in the dead of winter, which is a decision I will regret for the rest of my life. But I do it because you can walk by a hole in the world and you can do nothing. But if the next guy trips and falls in it, and you didn't put any sand
Mhm,
in to level the playing field, that's on you.
mhm, mhm.
Disability is not about an unfair advantage. So many people think it is, but it is about giving an opportunity to succeed with the right tools, connecting the right people to the right world. It's all a matter of connection. Feel free to call me a yutz at any time here, but
No, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I just want to talk longer, but I know that we're at the end of our time, and so much that you have said is so impactful. And always when I do this, I'm always like, "Oh, there's a clip. Okay, no, that section right there. That's going to be a good clip for us to post." So there's going to be a lot of good clips with this conversation, Cam. I just want to thank you so much. For being here, for sharing everything. I feel like I want to do a follow up podcast. So maybe we can do one in a few months' time just to see what else you're up to and learn some more, maybe hear a few more stories. But really, just thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience, your insight, your stories with us. I feel really honored and absolutely appreciate it.
it's my pleasure. And, well, for a follow up, I'd say have your people call my people, but your people tell me I don't have any people, so you'll have to contact.
I mean, I have just a couple people, but they're pretty impactful.
I kid, I kid. Honest or diplomatic, I don't do both.
All right. Well, thank you again. And with that, I want to thank everyone else for joining us here today. For more information about supplier diversity and inclusion and the work that IWSCC or Inclusive Workplace and Supply Council of Canada does, please go to www.iwscc.ca. You can find us on YouTube. Listen in to our podcast on your favorite platforms. I'm just going to do a shout out for an event that we did recently, just last week, where we had our first national forum for veteran entrepreneurs. It was called Evolve, and you can also find that on our YouTube channel as well. So it was fantastic, a conversation among veteran entrepreneurs and some of the struggles that they have, as well as sharing their successes and support for each other. So once again, I want to thank Pod Supply. I apologize for producing our podcast and doing such a great job with them. Maple Communications for supplying the ASL, which has been sponsored now for the second year in a row by RBC, Royal Bank. And so we're so happy to have them on board as a partner, helping to support IWSCC and all the work that we do. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now, folks.